Good evening, everyone. Namaste, and a very warm welcome to all our esteemed speakers, distinguished participants for the Bharatiya Management Navaratri e-lecture series 2025, which is organized by Center for Educational and Social Studies, Bengaluru, in collaboration with ICFI Foundation for Higher Education, Hyderabad. So let's begin this session with a small prayer to the Almighty. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurme Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Thank you. So this year it carries a very special significance as it marks the third consecutive edition of this Navaratri e-lecture series, a continuation that reflects us enduring commitment to drawing insights from Bharatiya traditions and applying them meaningfully to contemporary contexts. We all know that Navaratri is a sacred time that symbolizes resilience, reflection, and renewal. It celebrates the triumph of wisdom over ignorance and reminds us that true strength arises from discipline and a sense of purpose. Beyond its devotional spirit, if we see, Navratri can also be seen as a metaphor emphasizing the need for inner balance, the courage to face challenges, and the ability to harmonize collective effort towards a larger vision for the contemporary management and leadership. So, over this next 5 days, we will explore themes that link timeless Bharatiya insights with the demands of modern management. It is not only sequence of talks but a platform to reimagine how knowledge traditions can guide today's organizations, leaders and individuals in navigating complexity with wisdom, resilience and integrity. Before proceeding to the session, I request the Professor and Director of SES, Dr. Gauri Shah, to give away the introductory remarks. Sir, over to you, sir.
Namaste to all. Shubha Navaratri to all of you. I extend a warm welcome to Dr. Rajshekar sir and all the delegates for this online session during the auspicious Navaratri. We started this journey of Bharatiya management in 2018-19 with a national level workshop to explore what is Bharatiya in management, not only from the ancient scripts, even from the practices. Not only from the perspective of education, even from the application of the theory and concepts in real life situations, including industry. And what is the Bharatiya way of research? So broadly, we called it as Bharatiya management, which includes not only trade, commerce, industry, organization, it includes even the economics and other allied areas. We are able to do some kind of work, very humble work that we have done so far, able to connect with good network of people who are working for or working the area of Bharatiya management inside and outside the country. And we are able to establish some kind of a network with the institutions who are working or willing to work and explore this thought. And at the same time, some contribution we have done in terms of knowledge, theory building, or even the developing case studies and have a collection of practices that is Bharatiya origin or Indian origin. We can call it as it's ours, that we have contributed to the field of management or even beyond that. So in that direction, we are continuously working on the couple of projects that is basically developing content, exploring the thought itself, and also connecting to the people to contribute in terms of practices and case studies. So like that, couple of projects that we are running. And basically, we would like to build a community of contributors and the people who can apply all this into their day-to-day affairs to the possible extent. Secondly, that also we are working towards, I think it is a little ambitious to make Bharatiya management as a mainstream in educational institutions, as a mainstream program in educational institutions like universities and colleges. So I think now we are working on courses. Then I think we couple of years we would like to see the universities offering programs, complete programs. Some of the universities in the country already initiated that. So now continuously we are working on developing curriculum framework and content, faculty development to make it happen in reality. All these things we are now doing with the support of many institutions, organizations, individuals, and corporate and other stakeholders. In that connection, always we would like to reach out to the interested category of people who would like to join hands in this and also try out whether it is possible to take it to their classroom or to practice this in their life, whichever profession they are in. So that's we do a lot of seminars and online workshops, etc. So one such thing we started 2 years back, that is called Bharatiya Management Navaratri lecture series. This is the third edition. So 5-6 days we run this program. There will be 9 to 10 sessions on various themes. So we are able to see some kind of a success in terms of building a community of uh, uh, similar kind of those who share similar kind of vision towards establishing something called Bharatiya management. So 100, 150 people who attend every day the sessions, and this we are observing from last 2 years. I think it is continuing as of now. The number shows around 130 plus 140. So I think this is where we would like to connect with the interested category of people and build a community and have continuous interaction and share the thoughts, have a lot of discussions and things like that. So I think we got very good speakers this year also with a very good topics are there. We will have the sessions. Let us make it more meaningful to all of us. I must thank the ICFA Foundation for Higher Education, Hyderabad, for continuously supporting our initiatives under Bharatiya management. So my pranams to the entire team of ICFAI Hyderabad. So and also I acknowledge here the support always that we get from our Executive Council President Professor M.K. Sridhar sir and the mentor for Bharatiya Management at CEST Professor G.P. Sudhakar sir. And of course, many others also are continuously guiding us in this particular journey of spreading the Bharatiya management, the exploration journey. So I must thank all the speakers for accepting this to deliver our request to deliver the talk in the third edition of Navaratri lecture series. So let us take this forward, not just the series, the sessions. I think the very thought and practices, and also let us try to build a community so that we can really mainstream this in educational institutions and I'll take it to the practice level in various sectors. So that's all from my side. Eager to listen to Dr. Rajshekar sir and the second session for today. Thank you, one and all. Namaste. Dharani, over to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. So, our first session for today is Ashtanga Yoga for personal well being and professional excellence. And we have with us Dr. Rajshekar Krishnan, researcher and consultant, Bengaluru, to share his insights on how the timeless discipline of Ashtanga Yoga can guide us in nurturing balance, resilience, and excellence in both personal and professional life. So, when it comes to Sir, Dr. Rajshekar Krishnan is a seasoned coach, trainer, and facilitator with over 35 years of experience in organizational development and human performance improvement. He earned his PhD in 2012 from Aligarh Muslim University for his thesis on a study of personality traits, spiritual transcendence, and leadership styles in India. He holds a BE in mechanical engineering from Motilal Nehru National Institute of Technology. A specialist in management and leadership development and executive assessment and development centers, he has worked across diverse sectors including engineering, hospitality, training, consultancy, IT, and ITES. His professional journey includes leadership roles with renowned organizations such as Union Carbide, NIIT, NIS Sparta, EMC, CA Technologies, IBM Right Management, and Flipkart. He is also the co founder of Vida Consultants. He leads initiatives in leadership and organization development, serving both businesses and educational institutions. A lifelong seeker of spiritual wisdom and a dedicated student of Indian scriptures, Dr. Krishnan is also an ardent devotee of Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi. A warm welcome to you, sir, and now the session is over to you.
Thank you so much. And if you could help me share the.
Yes, sure, sure.
So, a very good evening, and thank you, Dr. Bhagya and Dr. Gaurisha, for your kind words. Of course, laying the purpose behind the entire e-lecture series. I think it's a very noble effort, and I'm glad to be a part of it. In fact, I'm so happy that I'm the first speaker. I hope I do justice to being the first speaker and therefore help all the participants to further attend all the other lectures, because well begun, as they say, is half done. So with these words, let me commence. The topic that I have at hand is Ashtanga Yoga for personal well-being and professional excellence. So I will begin with, since I'm a student of yoga myself, and it's both as a practitioner and as a scholar. So when we practice our yoga sessions, I'm a student of Iyengar Yoga. We always begin with this invocation. Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopa pravaram muninam patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi आबाहु पुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रासिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं सुश्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिं हरिः ओम्. At the outset, I would like to acknowledge a tremendous number of sources. So I stand on the shoulder of giants, and these are all spiritual giants, yoga giants, and scholars. And maybe this list is not exhaustive, but I have consulted a lot of books with the experience of being a yoga practitioner as well as the professional experience that you heard of. So I'm going to be going at a fairly fast clip because the time is now 5:16 and I have about 45 minutes at hand. I would like to complete it in about 40 minutes. Many of you are fairly well aware, so I'm going to be taking some time of yours in understanding certain aspects of the Yoga Sutra. So we look at yoga, we look at Ashtanga Yoga, we look at some of the obstacles as have been defined by Ashtanga Yoga in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, and we look at the solutions to those obstacles, as well as, of course, the purpose is to look at personal well-being, and personal well-being leads to professional excellence. So here I give a very different definition. This is from TVK Desikachar, who's the son of Krishnamacharya. So yoga is the ability to direct the mind exclusively towards an object, or let's say subject, and sustain that direction without any distractions. When I say subject, I mean an external subject, not the internal one, as well as internal one when you take it from the very, very traditional perspective. Now, of course, we have Ashtanga Yoga as defined, which is Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, Ashtangani. So let's look at these, and I have given the chart which looks at what one might look to be a modern way of defining these things. So I shall not go through each one of them. Please run your eyes through the entire table here, and there's a broad classification of what the groups of yama and niyama do, which is to strengthen the mind. Asana and pranayama further strengthen the mind and the body. Then, pratyahara and dharana are for focusing the mind, dhyana, so fixing the mind, and samadhi is emptying the mind. English is a very inadequate language, and therefore, we would be able to appreciate the meaning a little more if we are practitioners ourselves. So, what are the obstacles? Obstacles are called antaraya, so vyadhi, sthana, samshaya, pramada, alasya, avirati, भ्रांति दर्शना लब्ध भूमि कत्वान वस्थित्वान चित्त विक्षेपास्ते antaraya. So these are the 9 obstacles that any practitioner faces. You can see this vyadhi, sthana, samshaya, pramada, alasya, avirati. We'll be going into it in detail. Therefore, I'm not, describing or defining them, since the definitions are also very briefly given. Alabdha bhumikatva and anavistatvani, so which is instability. So the solutions are not exactly from the, of course, the Yoga Sutras have various solutions. Ashtanga Yoga is the solution at a personal level. But then we know we are also sourcing from the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which is again by Yogi Swami Swatmarama. So he has these 6 requirements: Utsahat, Sahasat, Dhairya, Tattva Jnanascha Nishchayat, Janasanga Parityagat, Shadabhi Yoge Prasidhyati. So the operative word in the modern business environment and institutional environment is success. So prasiddhyati. So siddha is to get success, and therefore there are some characteristics that have been given, 6 of them, which are about success. So now we'll examine it in a little amount of detail. So we'll go to Ashtanga Yoga. Having defined yoga as the ability to direct the mind, how do you get the ability to direct the mind without distractions, which is fundamentally the Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Chitta Vritti Nirodha. So what we are going to be doing is, when there is a yogic mind, and how to develop that yogic mind and how to use that yogic mind for personal well-being as well as for professional excellence. That's the direction of my talk. It's not a talk purely in terms of understanding the Yoga Sutras, which are in fact very well explained by a number of serious spiritual aspirants and sadhakas and swamis. So here we look at the broader aspects. So we'll be looking at yama, and yama, there is a definition both from the Patanjali Yoga Sutra as well as the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. So ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha, which seem to be common, but there are some additional yama elements that you find, which is endurance, compassion, meekness, sparing diet, and cleanliness. So we will take the mixture of the qualities given in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra as well as Hatha Yoga Pradipika for a deeper examination. So this is where we understand ahimsa. Of course, in the modern context, it is um, ensuring that we don't hurt people verbally or in deed. And of course, the hurt can be in terms of physical or mental. In modern institutions, we find POSH, which is prevention of sexual harassment. So inappropriate language is obviously himsa on the recipient of that language, and also visual behavior, which is ogling and stalking. So Satya is, of course, we all understand Satyameva Jayate. It is being truthful, it is being authentic. But the question is, truthful to whom? To the organization, to oneself. One element where asatya happens is fudging of figures. I'm giving you brief examples of where we should read between the lines that being truthful is helpful personally and also helpful organizationally, and it works the other way around. If you're not truthful, then there can be a lot of difficulties in personal well-being as well as professional excellence. Then asteya is not taking someone else's property forcefully or discreetly. So properties can be office assets, sneaking out with stationery, Of course, many a times it happens, you lay claim to someone else's idea, there is misappropriation of company money, there is using of company data for personal gain. So asteya is a very clear demarcation of, what is not yours, and therefore what is not yours is not something that we lay our hands or our mind upon and claim as our own, which is why the acknowledgement also that you found at the very beginning of this, because there is no claim that I have that these ideas being presented are my own ideas. Okay, brahmacharya. Now, of course, brahmacharya is overall self-control. It is not just sexual control as is normally deemed in our understanding. So it is an overall inability to control our language, inability to refrain from gossiping, inability to curb inclination towards a bias attraction. So it leads to a lot of negative aspects, which I have now put down. There are 7 elements, reduced credibility, health issues, decreased productivity. And therefore, it is keeping ourselves wedded to a higher purpose and not letting our lower self dominate our behavior at all points in time. Then aparigraha, which is non-possessiveness or non-hoarding. So hoarding versus storing, right? So there is this modern term, FOMO, fear of missing out. So I want to be marked in all the emails. I want to be told of every little detail that you're doing as a boss or even as an individual in your own family. If you do micromanagement, it is like wanting more and more possession of the other person's mind. And therefore, aparigraha in a modern context is uh, being very clear that you should not be hoarding other people's time and resources, and you should be happy with what you can, and therefore it brings us to the realization that we must be better managers of ourselves as well as managers of our institutional roles. Kshama. Kshama is forgiveness or forbearance. I think it's kind of important because everybody makes mistakes. If you are forever carrying a grudge, then I think we will never move forward. Many a time we will find that we are all aware that time heals, but then we can fast forward that, because when we know that time heals, we can as well allow the fast forwarding of time so that we forgive. Of course, forgive is not to forget in the sense that you know that an error has been made. You keep it in the mind without the emotional baggage that accompanies such acts. And therefore, it's a conscious decision to let go anger and resentment and choose understanding and empathy. Then Dhriti. Dhriti is to, so Dhriti is the mother word of Dharti, which is earth. So it is to bear, to hold on, to support. So it is being indicative of firmness, of resilience, of determination. And it's an essential quality that everybody requires to sustain through adversities and not giving way to despair or negativity. Then daya. Daya is to have pity, to have compassion. It's a sense of caring and empathy for others. You'll find it kind of links up with kshama, but daya is a variation of kshama. Unless you have kshama, I mean, unless you have daya, you cannot have kshama, and if you have kshama, you will have daya. So that's the reason why it is being indicated here as a quality. And then arjavam is being straightforward, is having integrity and not being cunning, because of course people tend to be cunning, but then you also tend to lose credibility when you are very cunning. So arjavam makes life easier. You don't have to remember all the lies that you have told, because that occupies a lot of mind space. So it is about constancy in decision making and transparency in communication. Some 5 points I've given here. And it is about sincerity. And therefore, Arjavam is a quality that is one of the few elements that we need to integrate within our own personality. Then mitahara, I think this is very true in modern times, and this is of course from the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. So moderate eating and physical health and mental clarity that emerges from moderate eating, and therefore also having ahara is all the things that go into our senses. So not excessive hearing, not excessive viewing, all those things will be broadly categorized as mitahara. So it's about measured inputs and not about going to extremes. And therefore, when you have a mitahara mindset, then you would also be capable of managing resources well. Of Of course, India's, frugal engineering emerges from mitahara because your ahara itself is less, and therefore frugal engineering has to emerge. And I think we Indians are very good at that. So this is the idea behind frugal engineering, if I may say. Then Shaucham is, of course, purity and cleanliness, which is both physical cleanliness for a tropical climate like ours, as well as internal purity. And this leads to mental clarity and integrity. And of course, Shaucham is systematically clean processes, being, good and clear in terms of perception. So that is indicated by Shaucham. So what we've done is we've done Yama, and we broadly seen that the green row that is there will help us restrain unhelpful thoughts. Let's look at Niyama, which is cultivating positive habits. Again, we have the Patanjali Yoga Sutra as a source, and therefore you have Shaucha, Santosha, Tapa, Swadhyaya, Ishvara, Pranidhana. We find that there is Shaucha which gets obviously so Niyama and Yama have a kind of overlap in one sense, but in Hatha Yoga Pradipika there are 10 niyamas given, and I have kind of mixed the two as we go along to understand. So Santosha is kind of contentment. It's not having greed, but that does not mean that we sit doing our bare minimum. So you need to have ambition, and I have kind of differentiated between greed and ambition. Greed is definitely something that we should avoid, but ambition is something that we should have both for our growth and for the institution's growth. And you can see that I put down some of the elements of ambition. Now, tapa. Tapa is the ability to bear pain to enable yourself to grow or to reach a particular final destination. So, as they say, no pain, no gain. It is that very simple proverb that is being put here as tapa. And it's a sacrifice for a larger benefit. It's akin to the ability to self-control, and therefore, tapa means you have to regulate your negative emotions and so on and so forth. And yeah, so once we have the ability of doing tapa or tapasya, like even the vratas that we have are actually tapa, because you would feel hungry, but then you control the hunger. And many of the festivals that we have are all actually quite yogic in nature if you penetrate through the rituals and customs that shroud them or that are the current social dress that they wear. So Swadhyaya. Swadhyaya is, of course, self-study. It's the process of applying and repeating all the learning by oneself. So it is introspection, it is reflecting, it is giving feedback to yourself by yourself, and of course, studying what is required for your own profession, for your own growth, because unless you study the texts or the basic fundamentals of your own professional disciplinary area, you would find yourself not being able to progress. And your own well being depends upon how well grounded you are professionally in the work that you do. And therefore, the institution also benefits from such grounded individuals. Then Ishvara Pranidhana is surrendering to a higher power. Now, it is irrespective of whether you believe in certain deities or don't believe in certain deities. We all agree that there may be a higher power. There is a higher power. So there is a value of surrender, in the leadership of a higher power. And therefore, when there is a higher power, that higher power may be giving you some feedback as it comes from the environment. So when you have Ishvara Pranidhana, you know that you don't control everything. And therefore, there is an acceptance of certain things that you cannot control, because some things are under your control, some things are not. And when they are not, you don't break your head over why they are not. You say Ishvara Pranidhana and leave it to the higher powers to figure out what needs to be done or what will happen to you. Accept it as it is. Astikyam is technically one who believes in the Vedas. So again, this is related to Ishwar Pranidhana. So in the modern context, you can say Astikyam is the competence in the leadership of the organization. If you say that, oh, my management is a useless management, my leadership is useless, my board of directors are useless, then the Astikyam is just not there. So you need to give them a certain amount of time, a certain amount of credibility. Of course, it is equally important on the senior management to have that credibility through their actions. So it's a two-way process. So Astikyam is the belief in a certain higher power that has got validity over a longer period of time. And I would put actually the fourth point, the rule of law. So Indians as a diaspora are welcome everywhere. And of course, we have heard a lot about what's happening in the continents across the seas. So because we believe in the rule of law, we are welcome everywhere. And I think it is the astikyam, we believe in the astikyam of the national government wherever we go. So astikyam is something that is inbuilt in us, but we need to obviously give it the modern twist that I'm giving or the modern interpretation that I'm giving. Dana is, of course, the act of giving or generosity. It's charity, it's corporate social responsibility, recognizing talent. Some people are very, very, very stingy when it comes to praising somebody. Okay, so be kind of plentiful in the praise for people who have done good work. That's the greatest dhanam that you can do. Then Ishvara Pujanam, somewhat similar, worship of the Supreme, because I've taken both the Hatha Yoga Pradipika as well as the Ashtanga, Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Therefore, you'll find some overlapping, but nevertheless, when an idea gets repeated in a different form, it's a reinforcement of the importance of the idea, and therefore Ishvara Pujanam. Then Siddhantya Vakya Shravanam, listening to the doctrinal statement or hearing principles. In simple words, knowing the fundas of your subject, knowing the fundas of the organization. Fundas is a very, very colloquial term. I would put it a little more properly, knowing the fundamentals, the fundamental tenets of your discipline, the fundamental tenets of the institutional culture, so on and so forth. So Siddhanta Vakya Shravanam, which is in fact self-explanatory. It's a beautiful term. Hreem is a sense of modesty, shame, or humility. So shameless people will go and do all unethical things. So when there is a sense of shame, when there's a sense of, oh, what will people think of me? As they say, every act of yours, you must be able to explain to your mom. If you're able to explain to your amma, then you have hreem, because all of us have been brought up by our mothers, and our mothers have inculcated a sense of right and wrong, which unfortunately as adults we tend to skip and to throw aside. Therefore, hreem is actually the sense of shame as taught by our mothers. And in a broader sense, it is a state of ethical consciousness, and therefore you're aware of what is right and wrong, and you're open to acknowledging your own limitations and feedback. Mati is, of course, intellect. So you need to use your intellect. There needs to be critical thinking, planning, and decision making. You can't be emotional. And therefore, Mati is important. So what we have done is we have done Yama and Niyama. Let's look at Asana. And I'm going at a fast clip because you are fairly familiar with the ideas. Maybe you're also familiar with some of the modern interpretations that I'm giving. So this is the importance that is given to asana, sthira sukha asanam, and in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, it is a first requirement. In fact, Yama and Niyama come a little later, but that's just technical and it needs to be understood in a modern context. So, of course, you need to be a practitioner of yoga. So, posture practice, that is called, is important. And many studies have proved the value of yogic postures as a gateway to physical health and mental control. Of course, we know about body language, we know about ergonomics. These are all spin offs from the fact that the body has to be respected while the body is not eternal, as has been told in all scriptures. Yet, while it does exist in the temporary phase between birth and death, it has to be well taken care of, and asana helps you do that. So we've done asana very, very quickly. Of course, there are so many asanas, and since I am a student of Iyengar Yoga, I can talk about alignment, I can talk about so many things which go into the practice, but suffice now to indicate that it is helpful to be doing some yogic practice. And in fact, it is so popular in other countries, it needs to, and it has gained that kind of popularity in India. Then we come to pranayama. Pranayama is, I think, the Patanjali Yoga Sutra broadly talks about shwasa and prashwasa, which is inhalation and exhalation. But here in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, we have a very interesting definition, which is chale vate chalam chittam. When the respiration is disturbed, the mind is disturbed, and therefore, when you restrain or when you slow down the respiration, the mind also becomes steady and slows down its frenetic activity. So this is a very interesting definition. What I've done here is, unknowingly, the English language has got many phrases with breath. So take a deep breath, catch one's breath, breathe easy, breath of fresh air, don't hold your breath. And of course, many of us know the meaning, so I'm not going to the meaning. Save one's breath, breathe life into, breathe down someone's neck, and you'll find everywhere there is an emotion that the phrase is associated with. So the connection between mind and breath is being involuntarily, intangibly established through these English phrases, which are not yogic, obviously, in nature. So pranayama is important from the modern perspective for many of these aspects. So point number 8 is health benefit. And of course, you will have improved communication skills because your voice regulation will become stronger. Your diaphragm becomes more capable of handling greater volumes, which is required for a louder voice, especially for those of you who are teachers. I can see many of you are doctorates and professors. So if you do pranayama, be rest assured that you will have an unwavering voice throughout the whole day. Personal experience once again. So pranayama, then pratyahara is of course withdrawing the mind from sense objects, which we are going to look at. So this is the Patanjali Yoga Sutra definition. I'll not go into the definition, but I'll go into the application. So it is withdrawing. So essentially pratyahara. We had the term mitahara, which is moderate food. Pratyahara means you deny food to your senses. So it's about withdrawing from the visual attractions, withdrawing from the auditory attractions, withdrawing from the gustatory attractions, withdrawing from the olfactory attractions, and so on and so forth when you sit down for meditation. Of course, when you sit down for work also, you need to ensure that you are focused and you're not distracted essentially by things that happen outside. So that is pratyahara. So now we look at dharana. Dharana is dharana socha yogyata manasah. It develops the capacity of the mind, and desha bandha chittasya dharana. So to be able to focus on a place or an object is the actual definition that Patanjali gives. So these are aspects where you're able to sustain. So you have to cut off all the external distractions, and then once you cut out the external, then as we looked at yoga as focusing the mind on a particular object, this is that aspect of yoga which was defined earlier on, to be able to focus your mind. And of course we have the other yogic texts like Shiva Samhita, Gheranda Samhita, Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, which look at various aspects of dharana. In fact, the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra has 112 ways in which dharana can be managed. So we must appreciate that India has a huge spiritual technology which just needs to be understood. There are enough scholars who have done work. There is a great need for downstreaming the knowledge as we are doing right now. So there are a lot of Sanskrit scholars, their work remains locked up. So we need people who will be able to understand the Sanskrit scholars' work and be able to apply it in the context of the modern world, and therefore India can truly use its 5,000, 10,000 year legacy to a very, very practical impact. So dharana is focus, concentration, mindfulness, and presence. Then we have done, so we'll now do dhyana. Dhyana is about, I will say, okay, so you continue. So I'll not go into this. So there's a sthula dhyana, jyotirmaya dhyana. So these are all aspects of continuing the entire matter. So I will say broadly, the practical application is there is a sustenance of the effort that you have commenced with pratyahara and dharana. Dhyana is a continuation of that. And the logical conclusion of everything is samadhi, which is a total emptying of the mind. So in the Gheranda Samhita, we have a good definition, understandable in a modern context without too much of background in meditation, which is separate the thinking principle from the body. So this mind is what keeps agitating the body, and therefore when the thinking principle, the mind, is made to quieten down, then what you're left with is the supreme energy within you, and you are able to experience that supreme energy. So that is called samadhi. Therefore, it again, when you come out of the samadhi, the remnants stay with you and you have that clarity that you bring to your work and to your personal well-being. So in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra tradition, these three, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, are taken as one triad. So trayam ekatra samyamaha. So that is how it is taken. Of course, there's a full chapter on what will happen when you use the samyama. Samyama is the three put together. So we're not going into those details, but suffice it, it is to know that dharana, dhyana, samadhi are something that can be reached when you begin your yogasana practice with the background of yama and niyama. But then there are always problems that we have, and these are the obstacles. So what are the obstacles व्याधिस्थ्यान संशय प्रमाद आलस्य अविरति भ्रांति दर्शन लब्ध भूमिकत्वान वस्तित्वानि chitta vikshepa. So your chitta, you want to focus, there is a vikshepa, there is a a blockage to its focus, and that is called antaraya. So what do we mean by this? What are these obstacles? So vyadi is dysfunctions that impede growth and success. So on a personal level, it is our health, our body is a temple of God, so on and so forth. But at an organizational level, when the organization is dysfunctional, it lacks vision, there's a lack of coordination, departments have overlapping functions, there is no one to set it right, there is no doctor or Vaidyan who's brought in, so there is low morale. So this is all indication of personal and professional vyadhi. And of course, when we are able to overcome vyadhi, we look at how to overcome these 9 antarayas. So sthyana is lack of enthusiasm and idleness. So languor or laziness, we just don't want to move. And when you have an organization which consists of leaders who don't want to move, departmental heads who don't want to move, uh, teachers who don't want to move, individuals who don't want to move, it's across the hierarchy of the organization. There'll be procrastination, lack of initiative, decreased interaction, poor time management, avoidance of responsibility. Then samshaya is a lingering doubt. If you have a doubt, as the term goes about doubting Thomas, in the same way, doubt is always negative, and you keep doubting every initiative, keep doubting every effort, then there will be over analysis paralysis, as they say, and that's at a professional level. And therefore, you can never ever move forward, because the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. And you would never take the first step, because if you believe that there's going to be a big, huge crater at that very first step, then you're not going to move ahead at all. Then pramada is heedlessness or callousness or casualness. So there's a lack of seriousness, there's no sense of loss. So here, in fact, we are saying that there must be a FOMO, fear of missing out in one sense, right? Oh, I have not done my work. Oh, I have not done my duty. So when we do not have that kind of seriousness, then what would happen at an individual, at an organization level? We will neglect details. We will be having a lack of accountability. There'll be inconsistent standards, because people, this is what I would deem to be, chalta hai attitude, as is spoken about in Hindi. Alasya, laziness, we all understand, is excessive of tamoguna in the body and the antakarana. And therefore, this has its own impact in terms of lack of energy. And again, we find that professional organizational impacts are kind of similar, because, of course, when we do a cause effect analysis, then we may find that the elements could be alasya or pramada, but the impact at the organizational level is somewhat similar for all these antarayas. Then avirati, this is very, very interesting. Rati means excess, virati means non excess, avirati is movement away from non excess. So I am moderate, but over a period of time, my moderation reduces. So today I have controlled my diet. For 1 week, I've controlled my diet. I feel I've done enough. So I have moderated my diet. Then I say, okay, a little more today. So I move away from the moderation, and that is actually a dwindling, tapering, diminishing control of what you established. So there is obviously decline in productivity. Point number 5 becomes very, very important. So when the decline in productivity, you would find that you're going back to old habits, you're going back to things that you thought you'd overcome. And that also brings us to the importance of persistent practice in yoga, because human nature is not easily controlled in one go, and avirati is a good way to for us to figure out that we are backsliding, in fact. Bhranti darshana is, of course, a false perception. Our knowledge is not correct. We do not understand things quite accurately. And of course, there is resistance to feedback, because I have a certain perception, and in that perception, feedback has got no place at all. Then alabdha bhumikatam is failure to attain grounding. So not progressing, so personal level, not progressing due to failure to establish a firm foundation of grounding. So we must be firmly grounded in who we are and what's our role in the organization, or what's our responsibility currently, and therefore define our focus areas. Organizationally, when you have a alabdha bhumikatvam in the organization, there's a lack of clear vision, and of course, there's a high turnover. High turnover. People like to leave the organization because they find that the ground on which they are supposed to be standing is like quicksand. There is no firmness in what the organization is driving for. Then anavastitva is instability, inconsistency, unpredictability. So somewhat similar. There are shades of meaning, of course, when one goes into the deep spiritual aspects of this. Then there are tomes written by the Vyasa Bhashyam, which is one of the important bhashyas on the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. So we are not going into that, but at an English level, it may seem similar. And of course, professional level, we find that the impact is somewhat similar. Then we look at solutions. So you say, okay, you've given us so many problems. So how do we solve this, or what are the attitudes? Of course, one way is to do your yoga. So the Ashtanga yoga is an important aspect of personal well-being, and personal well-being translates to organizational well-being, because individuals who are well grounded through Ashtanga yoga will definitely be personally grounded to see clearly what they need to do and what the organization needs to do. But we have, of course, a set of solutions: Utsahat, Sahasat, Dhairyat, Tattvagyanat, Nishchayat, Jana Sangha Parityagat. So we look at these, and I think I am more or less on time. So Utsahat, of course, we had Alasya and Pramada. So this is the opposite of that, is a driving force behind all great accomplishments. So it's a spark that ignites a fire of action. So unless we have Utsaha, we will not be able to. And Utsaha is not something that only children are supposed to have. In fact, that is the driving differentiator between some adult who's senile because everything is negative, because you've seen everything in life, then you have no Utsaha for anything at all. The moment you don't have Utsaha, you are dead. So therefore, please have Utsaha for life, and of course Utsaha for personal growth, no matter what. We are not people with perfect health. We would always have issues, but we always need to have Utsaha, because that itself is a great mental cure. Then of course professionally, it has its own consequences. Then Sahasat is it's a quality of mind where you're willing to stand up for what is right, willing to do what is right. You challenge the status quo. So you must have that sahasa. So it's also about taking a new initiative. And of course, professionally, when you have sahasa, you will be able to innovate and change, because any innovation and change requires sahas, because something new would always have its own detractors, and therefore sahas is required. Dhairya, patience. So we need to understand that things don't happen overnight. Rome was not built in a day. And therefore, it's a calm and composed state of mind that persists through difficulties and delays without frustration. So, dhairyam is understanding the cycle of time and knowing that, look, I've taken the right steps and therefore things will happen, and having the 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 dhairyam. In fact, I have got no other word. Having the dhairyam to see it through. So tapas depends on dhairyam. So if you look at all the elements spoken about, all the qualities, they are all interrelated, and we could do a full session on interlinking each of these qualities. Then tattva jnanat, again, it is like knowing, the grounding of your subject. So profound understanding of how things work, of the fundamental truths. So again, it's a rewording. So therefore, tattva jnanat, of course, spiritually it means something which is very, very deep, which is understanding the world and the Brahman behind the world, but we are not going into that. We'll simply say understanding the truth of what's the mission of the organization, what's your personal mission, what's the driving force behind what you're doing. And of course, there is a benefit professionally and organizationally. And nishchaya, determination, a firm commitment to course of action, which depends on utsaha. So this is again indicating that you achieve your goals, you overcome obstacles to tapasya, you sustain the effort to dhairyam, you motivate teams, and therefore you are a personal example or exemplar of the things that need to happen. Finally, we have Jana Sangha Parityagat. Of course, in a very, very yogic context, it means that the yogi lives a lonely life full of his own sadhana, but it simply means, in our case, renouncing the company of unproductive, toxic, or negative people. So it helps you maintain focus, it enhances productivity, fosters a positive climate, and promotes personal growth. So I find this to be the most interesting because we have a lot of people who are perpetually always thinking negatively, and they are happy for an opportunity to talk negatively, whereas we should ensure from our own personal well being that all the negativities are handled with our own positive mindset and therefore contribute organizationally to its growth. So with that, I come to the close. Once again, I will chant Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham. Sorry, there's a spelling mistake there. Malam Sharirasya Chavaidikena Yopa Karotam Paravaram Muninam Patanjalim Pranjali Rantosmi Abahu Purushakaram Shanka Chakrasidharinam Sahasra Shirasam Sushvetam Pranamami Patanjalim Hari Om. And now we are open to questions. So I'll stop the share and yes.
Yes, sir. So thank you so much. It was so much reflective and really very insightful, where we can, connect our ancient yogic wisdom with contemporary challenges, both maybe in personal and professional lives. So I request participants to drop the questions in the Q&A box. I don't see any questions till now. I think there is a request from Abhijit Gupta is asking for the PPT.
Yeah. Yes,
Whether
yes.
you
I will,
can
I
share
will
the
share
PPT.
it. I will share it with Dr. Soumya, whose
Yeah,
WhatsApp number I have, and she can
yeah. Okay,
further
okay, sir.
pass it
I'll
on to
talk
you.
to
I'm
ma'am about
happy to,
it. Yeah.
and please do share it with all the participants because I put together a lot of information here.
Yes, sir. Sure, sure. So there is one question from Dr. Satvik. How to control our emotions during professional journey?
So my simple suggestion is based on my personal experience. Start doing yogasans. Okay. So yogasans have a psychosomatic effect. And as you persist in the practice of yogasans, you will find the neurochemistry of your brain changing. When the neurochemistry of your brain changes, the volatility of your emotions will reduce. That's the best way. Instead of, see, yoga is, see, 1 inch of practice is equal to 500 tons of theory. Okay. Therefore, unless you practice, you will not be able to control. You cannot intellectually control an emotion. I can tell you that much.
So Mr. Ravi Bhushan is asking whether you can repeat the element Satya once again.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So Satya is basically being true to yourself. When you're true to yourself, you're true to the environment around you because you find that there is a symbiosis between your internal self and the external environment. So when the symbiosis is maintained, then any harm to the environment is a harm to yourself. Any harm to yourself is a harm to the environment. That's at a very, very high spiritual level. So we need to begin with where we are. So let us be truthful in terms of the work that we do. Let us be truthful in terms of how we spend our time. Let us be truthful in terms of not going to WhatsApp as soon as we wake up, because you see, that's the worst possible thing you can do, which is to waste your time on WhatsApp. WhatsApp is a good communication tool, but that's what it is. It is not your life. So you have to realize that, Tattva Jnana. So what is the Tattva behind WhatsApp? Is it to have a statement made and then fight over WhatsApp? These WhatsApp fights are the most stupid fights I've ever seen in life. So just to give you an example, right? So that is how we need to go behind every modern appliance that we have, every modern technology we have, from the perspective and evaluate its importance and validity, and understand how, see, ultimately we are all on a journey of evolution. So does it help? Through the various disciplines, we have families, we have professions, we have subject areas, but at the end of it all, we all want to evolve. So to evolve, we'll have to look through the mirror of our own traits to see how modern technology impacts us. So if you're able to see that, then we can live very, very enriched lives as Indians, as Bharatiyas.
Yes, sir. So there's one question from Rohini Murthy. We see students stressing out a lot nowadays. So how to tell them to overcome the stress?
Well, you see, if you are cool, then the students are cool. So I have taught at universities myself. So It is that, look, when there is a distraction in the class, if you handle them coolly, then they will realize that you have your emotions under control. So when the teacher is himself or herself emotionally cool, then when you give out a message that, look, you need to be emotionally cool, they'll listen to you. Because students are anyone, when they look up to a role model, that person has to really model the behavior that you're talking about. So as a teacher, it's a very onerous task because we are not superhuman beings, but at least let us be sure that if I tell people about timeliness, let me personally be on time. So if I have to tell people about emotional control, no matter what happens to me in the class, are my emotions under control? If they are, then you can tell your students and they will listen to you because it rubs off on them very strongly.
Yes. So, Mr. Paramesh is asking how one can manage oneself to balance both professional and personal life.
It's a tough one because you see, you have to devote some time to sadhana. And sadhana, since we are talking about Ashtanga yoga, in the context of the modern times, because we are subject to so many pressures, so many frustrations, so many obstacles that our health suffers. So, my recommendation is that you need to have your body is a vehicle, everything that you do, and your body houses the mind. And therefore, unless you take care of the body, the mind will not behave itself. And we have a time tested methodology. Ashtanga Yoga is a time tested, linear, sequential, parallel methodology available to us, which for many reasons, you see, the thing is that if you go to the spiritual gurus, they will talk to you about Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Sutra and Upanishads, all is fine. But in my experience, the great ideas that are contained there need to find a practical application and internalization, which happens through yoga. So forget about the differences between the six darshanas and who is Astika, who is Nastika, and who believes. That is all for philosophical discussion. Practically, since you asked the question, practically, I have seen that if you do physical yoga, it leads to mental control. We need to understand that very, very clearly. And that's the one message that I would like to strongly emphasize here. In no uncertain terms, you must find the time. If you find the time, I guarantee within 4 months, you will find a change. But do you have the right word is dhairya for that? Do you have the tapa for that? You have to look at the qualities to ensure, do you have the utsaha for that? I have all the utsaha, okay? So I'm trying to convey as much as I can virtually to all of you.
Sir, it's a question from Dr. V. Jayalakshmi. Uh, People say that as we age, we should, conquer all karma, krodha, etc.
Ah,
But it is very difficult to come out of jealousy. So,
correct.
how to overcome it?
See, I'll tell you, my guru Ramana Maharshi, whenever he was asked any question, he would say, who is asking the question? Ask, who am I? Okay. If you ask me, I will say the answer to anything and everything is do yogasans. Because let me tell you, over a lifetime of having experimented with many things, you can have various tools available. You can do the analysis, psychometric tools are available. See, all these are just at the intellectual level. Okay, my understanding of something is not going to lead to a transformation. Yeah, it gives a good basis. But let me tell you that when you do Trikonasana and then you are dealing with a muscle which doesn't move, and when you do that every day, all the qualities listed, and then you should compare yourself to improve, not to feel jealous. So someone else may be more flexible than you in a class. But when you find that you are inspired rather than you are feeling jealous, then that is when you have conquered jealousy. So when you go to a class, you'll find these things happening. I'm afraid I cannot give you I can give you a lot of intellectual answers, but then that's not of any use over these years. I've realized that intellectually running around with ideas, is a philosopher's pastime, but not a practitioner's goal.
Yes, sir. Sir, we can take one last question that is from Dr. Rajashri. Rajshri. Okay. Practice of the arts is also considered as a tapas. It
Yes.
also helps in emotional control and, to bring up discipline in life. But it is also defined as chitta vritti vilasaha. Are the
Yes.
two connected or diametrically opposite?
See, you can do chitta vritti vilasaha based on chitta vritti nirodha. If you simply do chitta vritti vilasaha, then unless you are grounded in the tattva jnana of that particular discipline, you may find yourself getting spread thin. So in fact, in my own class, I have a Bharatanatyam dancer who does the yoga asanas. So I asked her, why does she do? So she said, it helps me becoming centered. So I interpret that to mean that the vilasa that is required for the abhinaya has to be based on a certain focal point, and that focal point has to be regathered after. In fact, we do that in psychology. You have to have a clinical, I don't know what's the term, I forgot that term. After all the clinical work is done, you have to recenter yourself as a counselor. Otherwise, you'll find yourself so totally caught up in the problems of your patients that you may lose your own sense of purpose and your sense of rationale. So in the same way, you need to have both. We need to appreciate and understand that pravritti and nivritti both are required. To answer your question in very, very simple terms, uh, chitta vritti vilasa is pravritti. Chitta vritti nirodha is nivritti. Both are required.
Yes, sir. So thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session. So you have actually taken us through different dimensions of Ashtanga Yoga, unfolding each aspect with so much clarity and connecting its elements to the principles of management and leadership. And mostly we can connect that to our personal lives as well. It is nothing but the inner discipline that we cultivate and the self awareness that would shape all these things. So your reflections have been very thoughtful tone for this series. It has set a tone for this series, and we are deeply grateful for this wisdom you have shared with us this evening. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and I wish everybody all the best and happy Navaratri. And may
Thank
the
you so much, sir.
lead you all further to progress.
Yes, thank you.